Okay, so today we're going to look at 10 moments involving Creon and Antigone. The aim of this video is to help you understand these 10 moments involving this character, to maybe introduce you to something that you've never thought about before. We're also going to be looking quite closely at some of the themes that are running through, and I'll be providing a little bit of analysis along the way. So, moment number one. Creon is introduced to us in episode 1. We first see Creon when he is delivering his speech to the chorus, to the people of Thebes, after he comes to power. In this moment, Creon is talking about his political beliefs, and he's talking about what he plans to do as ruler of Thebes. As an audience, we get a real insight into what Creon is actually thinking power is. And that, remember, is a big theme that runs throughout Antigone. Now, within that big speech that you'll see at the start of episode 1 in your books, there are lots of different quotes in there that you can use. One quote which I think is really important that you can pull out though is when Creon is talking about traitors. Now, in this moment, Creon says, "And whoever places a friend above the good of his own country, he is nothing. I have no use for him." Now, why is that important? Well, in the scene before, we've literally just seen Antigone and Ismene having a debate with each other about what to do with their brother Polynices. From that, we know that Creon is not giving Polynices the proper burial rites. So, based on that, we can see that he is very much quite stubborn in his thinking. He's not going to budge from that. And that is an important moment because we realise that Creon's hubris is ultimately going to be his downfall. Okay, moment number 2. So, later on in the episode, we see Sentry come in, and Sentry has got some bad news for Creon. He's announced to Creon that Polynices' body has been buried. It's been given burial rites. So Creon obviously is extremely unhappy as a result of this. From that relationship with Sentry, we actually see something really interesting come to the fore. We start to see Creon's hubris, his arrogance, really coming through when he's speaking to people. But also, something which is really quite important here is that Creon's own paranoia is starting to creep in at this point. Now, on page 15 of your books, you'll see a quote. "No, from the first there were certain citizens who could hardly stand the spirit of my regime, grumbling against me in the dark, heads together, tossing wildly, never keeping their necks beneath the yoke, loyally submitting to their king." Now, in this, we see that Creon is actually quite paranoid about how the citizens of Thebes are perceiving him at this stage. He feels that they're not accepting him as king. What does that mean for Creon? Well, it means that he sees power as being the thing that is going to cause the people of Thebes to respect him. The more that he wields power, the more the citizens of Thebes are actually going to respect him. Is that going to turn out? Well, who knows? Okay, moment number 3. So we'll move on to episode 2 now. This is when Antigone and Creon kind of face off for the first time. And it's at this point where we see that Antigone is not scared of Creon. And that annoys Creon. So Antigone admits to burying her brother Polynices. This obviously enrages Creon because it is going directly against his rule of law. Not only that, but she is also his niece. So they're family. And that in itself, as you know, links in quite nicely to themes of loyalty of state versus loyalty to family. Because Antigone is conflicted about whether or not she should be loyal to her brother Polynices or loyal to her uncle Creon. But anyway, enough about Antigone. We are focusing in this video on Creon. Now, again, from what Creon says when he's speaking to Antigone, we as an audience actually begin to understand a lot about what his thoughts and opinions are on a whole variety of issues. But one that really comes out at the start of this episode, which is really interesting, is when Creon says, "I am not the man, not now, she is the man. If this victory goes to her, and she goes free." Now, that's important because in that there's a theme that's coming through of gender. Creon's ideas and thoughts on gender come through quite frequently in Antigone, but here it's almost as if Creon is saying that it's bad enough that somebody has gone against my law and given Polynices the proper burial rites, but the fact that it's a woman makes it even worse for Creon. That links into the idea that Creon is shocked that it's a woman who has gone against his rule of law because of women's role in Greek society at this time. We're staying with episode 2 here, and at this point Ismene has entered, and Ismene is trying to take responsibility for the burial of Polynices away from Antigone. She's trying to protect her own sister. Creon is enraged at this point. He's so angry, and he is starting to go down a path of self-destruction. At this point, Creon has already made a decision about what he's going to do with Antigone's life. Okay, he's going to end Antigone's life. Just remember, Antigone is not just his niece, but it's also his son's fiancée. Okay, so that is quite a big decision that Creon is making, and you can already start to see how he's beginning to isolate himself from those around him by these decisions that he's making because of his own stubbornness, his own hubris and arrogance. Now, on page 27 of your books, Creon is asked by Ismene about Antigone, and his response is, "Her. Don't even mention her. She no longer exists." Now, think about that. Creon's already decided, with Antigone there, he's already decided that Antigone's life is to be ended. Okay, so he's already made that decision there. That's a big, big moment. He then goes on to say about Antigone, "A worthless woman for my son, it repels me," which gives us an idea of what his current thoughts are on Antigone and how he doesn't see her as being worthy of his own son. Now, this shows at this point the complete destruction of the relationship between Antigone and Creon. It's completely collapsed now, and the consequences there are obviously going to be tragic. Moment number 5. Now, we're into episode 3, and Creon is meeting with his son Haemon, and they're having a father-son chat, but it all starts to go quite wrong. Now, at this point, Creon is trying to impart some of his wisdom onto his son. Whether or not Haemon actually wants that advice is another matter. Now, during his big speech towards his son, you could say it's a bit of a fatherly rant. Creon starts to get onto the subject of state once again. Of course he does, he's the king. And he says, "But whoever steps out of line, violates the laws, or presumes to hand out orders to his superiors, he'll win no praise from me. But that man the city places in authority, his orders must be obeyed, large and small, right and wrong." Now, that's an important line there. Why? Because Creon is almost starting to admit at this stage that some of his laws might not necessarily be right. But he still believes that the citizens of Thebes need to follow his rule of law, regardless of whether or not they think that this is right or wrong. That's important, remember, because it shows that Creon believes that power is absolute, and that if you're seen to be a weak leader, then you will not be respected by the citizens of Thebes.